Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I was on the phone outside the Fulton Street Express stop, wind slicing through my coat like it had something to prove, when Luna broke free from my hand. She just let go, no warning, and marched up to a woman hunched on the bench like she'd been waiting there for hours. "She has Mommy's eyes," Luna said, loud, like she was announcing the weather. I dropped the call mid-sentence and moved fast, boots grinding ice. The woman didn't move toward Luna, just lifted both palms and said, "I didn't touch her." Her voice was brittle, like she hadn't used it in a while. Her coat was nothing but threads and desperation. She held a canvas tote like it was going to protect her from the cold. Her cheeks were raw red, but not the kind you get from a brisk walk. This was windburn mixed with fever. Her lips were edged gray. I know that color. I've seen it in ERs. Before we continue, share in the comments which city or country you're listening from. It helps us see where you're tuning in from and figure out the best time to post new stories. Thanks. Now let's get into it. I run a brokerage. I read threats for a living. I scanned her like a human lie detector. No twitchy tells, no weapon bulges, no edge. Just a skinny woman in the wrong place with nothing but a cracked pendant on a frayed cord. It was shaped like half a teardrop. Metal, cheap, but old. Luna pulled a bear-shaped cookie from her coat and laid it right in the woman's lap like it was some kind of offering. The woman blinked slow and whispered, "Thank you." Even her breath sounded thin, like her lungs were paper bags. Then she tried to stand. Her knees gave instantly. She staggered sideways, clipped the shelter post, and dropped. I didn't think. I just reached out and caught her under the arms. She felt like a bundle of dry towels. No weight, no fight. "Is she going to die?" Luna asked, wide-eyed. I said, "Not if we get her warm." Already crouched and hauling her up. I'd crossed the line. No walking away now. We live up in Riverdale, in a brick duplex with old bones and locks that don't argue. After the long ride uptown, 3.5 blocks from our stop, I had the heat cranked, Luna's boots off, and the gas fire going. In her room, the star projector was already throwing galaxies on the ceiling. I tucked the woman onto the guest couch and texted our private doctor. He came at 10:40 sharp. Fever was over 102. Lungs sounded rough. Dehydration, definitely. "Rest, fluids, warmth," he said. "Any family?" She just looked past him and said, "No one." After he left, I made ginger tea, slid a folded napkin under the mug, wrote a quick note on it. "You're not invisible." I don't even know why. It felt more like a promise than a sentence. She didn't wake until morning. When she did, Luna was already on the rug, drawing. 3 stick figures under a giant circle. "That's Mommy's eyes," she said, pointing to the face in the middle. The woman looked at the mantel, saw the photo of my wife, my late wife, and looked away fast. Up close, I saw it too. The same weird fleck in the iris. Not full heterochromia, just a little shimmer at 2 o'clock in the right eye, like a tiny comet frozen mid-tail. I didn't say anything. "What's your name?" I asked. She said, "Vivian." Voice low but steady, not begging, not broken. "You can stay until you're better," I told her. I made sure I sounded cold. I needed to. I wasn't running a shelter. And I wasn't ready to guess what it meant if Luna was right. She didn't argue. She just nodded once, pulled the blanket tighter, and closed her eyes. The next morning, she was already in the kitchen when I came down. Hair tied in a loop, sleeves rolled, barefoot, calm. She didn't ask permission, just started peeling carrots like the house was hers to care for. The broth already smelled like something real. Rosemary, cracked pepper, and something else. Bright, clean, the note I could never pin down. My wife used to make soup that smelled exactly like this. That hit harder than I expected. Vivian glanced at me. "A couple in Woodside taught me this. They let me stay for a bit." Her voice was even, like she wasn't sure if I'd answer. I nodded, But my hands locked on the counter. The timing, the smell, the way she moved, quiet but certain. It tripped something in me I wasn't ready for. I check patterns for a living. This one lined up too well. When she reached to stir the pot, her sleeve slid back just enough. A long scar curved over her wrist, pale against her skin. Not fresh, not attention-seeking. Old, deep, healed wrong. I didn't say anything, but I clocked it. That's how I stay alive and keep Luna safe. Luna came in like a storm in a tutu, humming something she'd made up on the spot and swinging her stuffed cat by the tail. Her rule's simple. Home is people with the same eyes or voice. She plopped onto a stool and started humming at the counter while Vivian chopped celery in rhythm. Then it happened. Vivian started humming along. Not Luna's tune, something older, familiar. That lullaby. The one my wife sang to Luna when she was little. A tune I hadn't heard in 6 years and never expected to hear again. I turned fast. "Where'd you learn that?" She froze mid-chop, frowned like she had to fish the answer out of somewhere deep. "From before. I don't know where. It just sat in me." Her eyes didn't move. Voice flat, not defensive, just confused. I didn't press. I just walked her past the guest room to show her where the extra towels were. She noticed the photo on the shelf, a framed shot of my wife from that winter trip to Vermont. The sun caught her face just right in profile, that tiny fleck in her iris sharp as a needle. Vivian didn't stare. She flinched. A quiet jolt, like the picture bit her. That pendant was still around her neck, half a teardrop shape, cheap metal dulled from time. She kept thumbing it like a nervous tick. My own version of that pendant sat in the safe upstairs. I never talked about it. My wife's mother gave it to me after the funeral. Said her younger daughter wore the other half before she vanished. A missing child report that went nowhere. I kept it out of guilt. Or maybe for a day like this. I honestly didn't know which. After lunch, Luna taped a drawing to the fridge. 3 stick figures with stringy hair and holding hands under big block letters. Our home. Above it, she'd written in red marker, Mommy's eyes. I stood there staring at it, no air in my lungs, like someone had slapped me right in the chest. I didn't say anything, just turned away and grabbed the broom. I laid down rules that afternoon, clear ones. No overnights in my room, I said. No house keys, no posting anything online about this place. You're not being rescued. I'm helping. Temporary. She didn't argue, just nodded once and said, "Thank you for straight lines." Like she meant it, like that was a gift. That night, she slept hot again. Shivers, half-murmured words I couldn't catch, her fists tightening in the blanket like she was bracing for a blow. I sat in the hallway outside the door with a mug of tea I didn't drink. I didn't touch her, just listened. Guard dog mode, ready but not reckless. I've heard what it sounds like when someone's trying not to be a burden. By morning, her fever finally broke. She looked worn down but steady. While I made coffee, she sat cross-legged on the rug with Luna, reading from one of those picture books with thick cardboard pages. Her voice had weight. Not loud, not showy, but solid, like every syllable was held before it was spoken. Luna leaned in close, absolutely locked in. That never happens unless the story feels true. Not the words, the telling. I brought them both tea, mint for Luna, ginger and honey for Vivian, and slid another note under her mug, still not invisible. She saw it, touched it with one finger, then tucked it into her tote without a word. Like it mattered. Like maybe she'd done that before with something else she wanted to believe in. I told myself it was just manners, that it didn't mean anything. But it did. I could feel the shift. She didn't ask for a thing, didn't beg for more time, didn't push, just existed in the space without making noise. And for the first time in a long while, the house felt balanced, not fixed, not healed, just steady, like we were all waiting on the next beat together. That night, after Luna was down and the house settled into that deep, late quiet, I sat at the kitchen island with my laptop, a mug of cold coffee, and my instincts kicking in like muscle memory. I didn't want to dig, but I did it anyway. I started with search engines, then moved to niche forums, grant reports, staff directories. I keyed in her name, her NGO history, any place she'd left behind. And there it was, buried in a comment thread on a public grant audit from 3 years back. Vivian Hollis accused of leaking confidential case files while at Harbor Hands. No court case, no official charges, just an internal investigation that went nowhere. The story was vague on facts, but sharp on impact. Security breach, loss of donor trust, personnel reassignment. I know the language of cover your ass. It was there in every line. But still, accusations stick. They move like smoke. You don't need proof, just a headline. I kept reading. The timeline felt off. She'd been let go before the breach supposedly happened, but the posts didn't say that. They just made her the face of failure. It was the kind of thing that cools a room before she even walks in. I didn't sleep. I paced the hallway, and then I showed her. I caught her coming back from brushing her teeth, towel around her neck, hair still damp. I held up the screen in the dim light like a warrant. She looked, didn't blink. "I figured you'd look," she said, and stood there waiting like she was already used to being walked out. I stared too long, thought too long. That second of silence was the damage. I hate how long it took me to speak. "Did you?" I asked finally. "No," she said. Not angry, just flat, like people sound when they've already been convicted without trial. I didn't say another word. She turned, walked to the couch, and zipped her tote. That sound cracked the air like a line closing. She moved fast, no begging, no dramatics, just packed what she came with, which wasn't much. Luna was already at the door in pajamas and socks, holding out her stuffed bear with both hands. "So you won't be alone," she said, serious as I've ever seen her. Vivian knelt down and hugged her like someone trying to memorize the shape of a goodbye. "Thank you," she whispered. Her fingers clutched the bear like it meant more than survival. I stood there, frozen, like a man trying to split himself in two. One half wanting to protect my daughter, the other knowing I'd just pushed something honest out into the cold. Vivian didn't say goodbye to me. She just opened the door and stepped into the snow. It clicked shut behind her, sharp and final, like a hard period. About 2 hours later, I went to check on Luna. Her bed was empty. Panic didn't come in waves. It hit all at once. The window latch was undone, barely jimmied. I bolted through the house and threw on boots half-tied. The snow outside had thickened to those big lazy flakes that make the world quiet and dangerous at once. I saw her halfway down the block, slippers soaked, arms folded tight under her little coat, walking straight for the streetlight at the corner, like she was following some signal only she could hear. Vivian was standing under that light. Still. Coat pulled tight, tote on her shoulder, humming something soundless. Not a tune, not a word. Just breath. Luna slipped, went down hard on one hand. I saw the smear of red on the snow from 20 feet away, her palm, not deep, but messy, and enough to gut me. Vivian was there before me. She knelt, pulled a handkerchief from her coat pocket, and wrapped Luna's hand with practiced hands. No panic, no chatter, just calm. Luna pressed into her side like she'd found shelter, not just from the cold, but from whatever I'd made go missing. "Please don't leave again, Mommy," she said, straight into Vivian's coat, like it was law. I felt everything in my chest fall down a floor. "I'm sorry," I said, to both of them, but mostly to whatever inside me thought I was being careful. Then I said it again, clearer. "Thank you." Vivian nodded but didn't speak. I stood there, arms hanging, snow gathering on my sleeves. "We need you," I added. That was the sentence. That was the one that mattered. She didn't answer right away. She just exhaled, like I'd put down something she'd been carrying alone. Then she stood, held Luna close, and started walking back with me. Inside, I cleaned Luna's cut. She didn't cry, just watched me with that quiet look kids get when they're too tired to explain why something hurt. Vivian stood nearby, not hovering, just present. I didn't ask her to stay. I told her. 2 afternoons a week, I said. Reading, art, structure, clear lines, pay for the hours. She looked at me for a second too long, like she was making sure I meant it. I can do that, she said. Thank you. When they were both asleep, Luna curled around that bandaged hand, Vivian stretched out on the couch. I poured myself a bourbon I didn't touch. Sat in the dark, back to the wall, still in my boots. The lullaby was stuck in my head, turning over and over like a loop I couldn't break. And I remembered something my wife's aunt once said, years ago, low over the stove when she didn't know I was listening. They never found the younger one. I didn't say that part to anyone. Not yet. She came back exactly as agreed, 2:50 on the dot, Wednesdays and Fridays, not a minute late. Her coat was zipped, hair pulled back, toed over one shoulder. Her hands smelled like graphite and soap, and there was a pencil tucked behind her ear like she'd forgotten it was there. Luna had a list of questions ready before the door even closed. What's your favorite cereal? Do you like snakes? Why do you wear the same shoes? Vivian grinned but didn't dodge. She just answered in order while preheating the oven and tying on an apron. The two of them made oatmeal cookies with weird little faces pressed in, like kindness had a shape, and that shape was baked in. I kept my distance. No late-night talks, no asking about her past. I stuck to my routine. Early runs, cold showers, market news before breakfast. Order kept me vertical, but I could hear them through the wall. Vivian reading letters out loud from Luna's pen pal jar, a shoebox full of notes she wrote to imaginary friends and insisted on mailing someday. Her voice had that slow gravity that makes kids stop fidgeting. Even I caught myself listening from the hallway once or twice, just long enough to forget the rule about lines. At work, my COO, Colin Brandt, caught me in the elevator and decided it was the perfect time to be useful. You sure it's smart to get close to someone with noise around them? He said, faux casual. We've got our compliance review in less than 2 weeks. I didn't give him the satisfaction of eye contact, just stared straight ahead and said, noted. He shrugged like he'd done his job, then got off on the 9th floor. That night I caught Vivian humming while folding dish towels. Same lullaby. No words, just that slow loop of notes I hadn't heard in years until she showed up. I was leaning on the doorframe. Where'd you grow up? I asked. She didn't blink. Astoria, group home. Then a rough adoption in Jersey. Left when I was 16. Worked kitchens, cleaned houses, translated stuff. Learned fast. Didn't look back. There was no pity in her tone. Just the facts. One line after another. Astoria to Jersey, I said. What year? Early 2000s. Maybe 2001. I bounced a lot. I ran the math while she rinsed a pot. My wife had told me once, barely more than a whisper, that her little sister vanished from a playground one summer, the summer of 2000. Just gone. No suspects. No closure. The only thing left behind was a split pendant set the two girls used to wear. Half went missing. The other half, my wife's, was handed to me after the funeral by her mother, who said, just in case. It sat in my safe upstairs. Still does. Vivian's pendant caught the kitchen light when she turned. Same shape, same dull shine, half a teardrop. I didn't say anything. I'm not built for magical thinking. I check before I speak. Always. The next day, Mrs. Halverson from 3 doors down rang our bell. She handed Luna a paper grocery bag filled with old children's books and said, "These should live where someone still turns pages." Then she shuffled off in boots 2 sizes too big. At the bottom of the bag, wedged between a Dr. Seuss and a crayon-smeared Clifford, I found a Polaroid. 2 blonde girls at a summer fair, one holding a paper star cut wrong, edges jagged. The taller one had her arm around the smaller, half smile in profile. The younger one, Tiny, serious, solemn, had that same comet-shaped fleck in her iris. Right side, 2 o'clock. I didn't say a word. Later that night, Vivian was rinsing mugs at the sink when she froze. She was staring at the corkboard near the fridge, at a takeout menu stuck with a magnet. "Where's Pembroke Street?" she asked. "Brooklyn," I said. She nodded slowly, eyes still fixed. "Feels familiar," she murmured, but didn't explain. Her hands were still in the water. My wife had grown up on Pembroke Street, lived there until she left for college. That block was in every old photo her mother ever mailed us. I walked out of the kitchen and went straight to the den. That's when I started sketching out the vocal booth. I told myself it was for Luna's podcast assignment, some third-grade oral history project about family stories. But I went all in, drafted out foam panel placement, picked out a cardioid mic, listed USB interfaces with clean noise floors. It was a lie. But it was the kind of lie a man tells while building a bridge he hopes someone might walk across. That weekend, I put Luna's Mommy's Eyes drawing in a $5 frame and set it on the piano like it was the national flag. Every night after dinner, she'd salute it. Not a joke. A full hand-to-forehead salute like she was reporting for duty. Vivian never commented. But she always looked. And I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe we were walking backward into something real. A few days later, after Luna went down, and the cookies from their last baking session still made the air smell like oatmeal and cinnamon, Vivian finally said it out loud. "Harbor Hands," she told me, sitting at the kitchen table with her tote open. "That's where I worked before everything went sideways. My ex-coordinator, Trent Aldridge, ran the place like it was a game. He kept score with people's lives." Her hands were flat on the table. 2 weeks before the leak, he started locking me out of internal folders. I thought it was a glitch. Then I realized he'd been swapping passwords. After they let me go, they said I was the leak. I didn't move, didn't comment. She reached into the tote and pulled out a battered silver recorder. The buttons were half worn down, the label strip faded from years of thumb smudge. "I use this to translate and to remember," she said quietly. "Sometimes I forget what day was what. This tells me." I turned it over in my hand, heavy, old, the kind that still ran on AA batteries. The screen blinked blue when I hit play. Voices filled the room, Trent's among them, smooth, careful, like someone who practices being believable. "I pulled everything into a folder called HH Briefings," he was saying. "We'll review privacy protocols again Monday." His voice echoed faintly, like the sound had bounced off a small conference room. I scrolled through the recorder's log and checked timestamps. The files were in coordinated universal time, not local. That caught my attention. One file in particular had a date 2 days after Vivian's termination paperwork. "You were terminated on March 8th, I said. "This briefing file's stamped March 10th. That's after you were gone. And that file path, he says, HH Clients, Shocks Confidential. That S in your old folder." Vivian blinked once, slow. "He used my credentials," she said. I nodded. "Looks like it. I'm not tech, but I know a log when I see one." She sat back, staring at the recorder like it was a grenade. We reached out to one person she trusted, Myra, a quiet staffer who used to manage logistics. Vivian texted her from my phone so it wouldn't ping any of Trent's old watch systems. Myra replied within minutes, just 3 words. "I kept proof." An hour later, she sent over screenshots from an old shared drive rename. It showed Trent swapping Myra's initials for Vivian's on a confidential subfolder. Same week the leak surfaced. Dates matched our audio. The story started to tilt toward truth. I brought everything to Rick, my compliance guy. He's the kind of man who could make a tax code sing. I told him, "Ignore the story. Look at metadata, not content." He checked hash verifications on the audio, confirmed the recorder's internal clock matched a national time source within 3 seconds. "Clean as a ledger done right," he said. "If these files are forged, they're art-level forged, but they don't look it." While that was rolling, the public radio liaison I knew from a winter donor event called. They were putting together a relief marathon, stories from shelters, field clinics, displaced families. "We've got a last-minute gap for a reader," she said. "Someone with range." Before I could stop myself, I said, "I know someone." I gave her Vivian's first name only and said I'd vouch. Then I added, "If you give her an hour slot, I'll personally match donations up to $85,000. There was a long pause on the line. "You sure?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "I'm sure." The deal was sealed in under 10 minutes. The next day, Colin stormed into my office like a man who thought volume was strategy. "You're out of your mind," he said. "We're 2 weeks out from an audit, and you're tying our brand to someone who's under a cloud." "I'm tying my name," I corrected. "Not the firm's." "That doesn't matter," he shot back. "You are the firm." I stood up, slow, not loud. "Then maybe the firm should stand for something better than fear." He pointed at the desk. "You can't keep crossing lines for people who might drag you down." "Write that down," I told him. "If we fold every time someone tells us to be afraid, then I don't want the badge that comes with this desk." He left without closing the door. I left it open on purpose. When I told Vivian about the broadcast slot, she didn't speak right away. She just stared at her hands like she was reading something written there. Then she said, "I'll read letters from the people Harbor Hands helped. Not my defense. Theirs. Their words matter more." That was smart, strong, not needy. That night, Luna and I tested the new booth. Foam on the walls, cheap mic, but the sound was clean. She was supposed to wait until I said ready before pressing record, but she tapped the red button and captured 20 minutes of us fumbling with cables and me muttering under my breath. She laughed so hard she hiccuped. "Early record helps," she said, serious now. "If you don't, you lose the start." Out of the mouths of kids who build their own worlds out of markers and glue sticks. After she went to bed, I sat at the desk and pulled the Polaroid from the file I kept hidden under old statements. Under a desk lamp, the edges glowed faint yellow with age. 2 girls, one smiling, one solemn. The younger one's iris had that same fleck. Tiny comet, right side. I set the photo next to my wife's aunt's old letter about her missing sister. Then I added a note in my own handwriting. Possible connection. Check quietly. I didn't tell Vivian. Not yet. Not until I was sure. Some things you don't outsource. Not when they carry ghosts. 2 nights before the full marathon, we walked into the old public radio house in Lower Manhattan. Red brick, warped wood stairs, glass panels that rattled if you shut a door too fast. Inside smelled like old coffee and paper. A low buzz filled the place. Volunteers clipped headsets on. Producers adjusted levels. Phones already ringing like they knew the future. Vivian didn't speak much on the way in. She just sat down when told, back straight, hands folded, no notes in front of her. She didn't touch the mic or ask how things worked. She waited, still as steel. I leaned in and kept it simple. Don't read to the mic. Read to one person who needs to hear it. Just one. She nodded once. That was all. I've seen traders right before the bell. Same focus, same posture. There's a moment before high-stakes pressure when the calm people are the ones who scare you the most. She looked like that. Luna was up way past bedtime, too wired to leave. She had headphones on, a glitter sticker stuck to her cheek, and was sitting next to the board like she was 10 years older. Right as the host wrapped his intro, she reached out and tapped the standby record button early. The engineer muttered under his breath, then caught what happened and nodded. It saved the segment. No dead air, no fumble. Vivian started reading. Letters from clinic halls, from grandmothers raising 3 kids on Social Security, from a woman who'd waited 3 winters for asylum paperwork. Her voice didn't rise. No drama, just held steady, paced right, honest. She never added anything, never paused to make it about her. And still, people donated. Not a flood. More like that kind of rain that starts soft and just keeps going. The phones started lighting. One call after another. Midway through the segment, someone asked the question we knew would come. Isn't she the one who leaked the files? Vivian didn't flinch. She kept her hands on the table and said into the mic, I was blamed, but tonight isn't about me. It's about them. That was the turn. That sentence. That's when the phones didn't stop ringing. People donate when they believe they're helping, but they give more when someone refuses to make it about revenge. She never begged, never defended. She just kept reading. During the second half, I stepped into the booth and raised one hand for a 30-second insert. The host nodded. I leaned forward and gave my full name. Said I was matching up to $85,000 and that I personally vouched for the reader's integrity and the honesty of her work. I didn't stutter, didn't hedge. I put my name on the table like a bet. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Colin, of course. All caps, 2 words. You're done. I silenced it, let it ring out. Luna reached up and squeezed my arm. We chose trust, she whispered, dead serious. I nodded and swallowed the lump in my throat. Donations jumped. The screen lit up all at once. Red, green, yellow. Every pledge counted out loud. The host mouthed, "Thank you" to me from across the glass like I'd thrown him a rope. Vivian never looked up, never stopped. Her eyes stayed on the page like they were wired to it. That's what pros do. That's how you know someone's real, when the chaos doesn't touch their delivery. After the segment ended, the director pulled me aside near the stairwell. "There'll be chatter," he said. "This kind of slot draws headlines." "Better to be first," I told him. We set our own frame. He nodded like someone who'd watched too many reputations drown quietly. Back home, I waited until Vivian made her tea. Then I opened the safe. I didn't talk. I didn't set the moment up like some grand thing. I just took out the other half of the pendant and placed it beside hers on the kitchen table, right between the mugs. Same shape, same age. 2 edges that didn't quite click, but clearly matched. She stared for a long time. Not like she didn't believe it. More like it hurt to look. "I don't want to borrow a family," she said. Her voice cracked just slightly. "I've done that before. It never holds." "You're not borrowing," I told her. "If this is what I think it is, then someone stole it from you. We're just putting it back." She didn't move. Just closed her eyes for a few seconds and breathed through her nose like she was bracing for something bigger than she could name. We didn't hug. Didn't cry. That's not how real moments work. I told her I'd handle the check. Quiet. No spotlight. I said I'd call my wife's aunt in the morning. She nodded. Her tea sat untouched. That night, for the first time in over 6 years, I turned off the hall light and didn't double back to check the locks twice. I lay down and slept. Not lightly, not on edge. Real sleep. And somewhere in that house, something shifted. The next morning we met Myra near Union Square, right outside a cafe that brewed coffee so strong it smelled like punishment. She wore a knit hat and kept looking over her shoulder like someone might follow her from the bagel stand. Under her coat was a thick folder, gripped like it mattered. "He moved files after she was gone," she said, no lead up. "Oh, you can see it in the admin logs. Folder access, renamed timestamps, midnight pushes from his office IP." She held the folder out like it was hot. "The pattern's clean. He used her profile for days." Vivian didn't say anything. She just nodded once and stepped back like the proof wasn't new, just finally surfaced. I took it straight to Rick. He spread the pages across my dining table, mouth tight, eyes sharper than I'd ever seen them. "Every log's stamped," he said. "File hashes match. This is admin level access, Trent's ID, midnight activity, office IP, not remote." He clicked through the files, lining timestamps with our recorder's metadata. It all snapped together. "This isn't gossip anymore," he said. "It's math." While Rick handled the logs, Mrs. Halverson stopped by holding a cardboard box duct-taped around the edges and labeled "Old Church Stuff, Fair," in faded Sharpie. She said, "Been cleaning the attic. Figured you should have this, and handed it over with a smile like she already knew. Inside was a flyer from a 2000 church fair, Pembroke Lutheran, a kid's scavenger hunt listed next to a bake sale. Folded under the flyer was a photo, grainy but clear. My wife, maybe 9, standing beside a smaller girl holding a crooked paper star. Same bright fleck in the younger girl's right iris. The angle caught the pendant around her neck. I didn't speak. I just pressed the photo flat and slid it into the file beside Myra's logs. Then I called Marjorie, my late wife's aunt. She picked up on the third ring and said, "If this is about the photo, I already know." I told her we were moving carefully, that I wasn't making claims. I just needed the report. 2 days later, she mailed me the missing child report and a letter written in that same blocky handwriting I remembered from her Christmas cards. It said, "If the world is kind, it will circle back. If not, make it anyway." I don't believe in fate, but I believe in paper. Trent must have caught wind, because that night, Vivian got a long-winded text. He used 5 paragraphs to say nothing. A lot of phrases like, "We all make mistakes," and "Nobody's perfect." No apology, just noise. She handed me the phone without responding. I forwarded the logs to Harbor Hand's board chair and copied the station manager. Along with them, I included a simple request. Handle this publicly, but without a spectacle. No takedown theater, just the facts. The station moved first. They invited a short, controlled call-in hour to clarify public confusion. That's all they called it. Clarify. Nothing flashy. Vivian was reluctant, but agreed on one condition. No panel. Just calls and answers. That night, one of the first callers was Nora, a former intern who'd been on courier duty the spring Vivian was fired. Her voice shook, but her words didn't. Trent gave me a file run at 6:45 in the evening, 2 days after Vivian's termination date. He told me not to log the drop. "Do you have a record of that delivery?" the host asked. I kept the receipt. I didn't trust him. She faxed it in 10 minutes later. The timestamp matched Myra's folder rename and Rick's access logs, a pattern no one could deny. Harbor Hands issued a formal statement 2 days after that. They named administrative irregularities and credited a staff audit for uncovering them. They placed Trent on unpaid leave pending a review. They cleared Vivian by name. No adjectives, no fluff. Just Vivian Hollis was not responsible for the breach in question. Exactly what we asked for. Clarity beats drama every time. That night, Vivian read one last letter on air. Her voice held, but her hands shook behind the mic. I watched from the doorway while Luna mouthed every line like she'd practiced it. She hadn't. She just knew it, front to back. The way you memorize things that matter. I didn't feel victory. I felt something closer to clean. After the segment, Colin sent me one more message. "You glued your name to someone else's storm." I replied once. "That's what a name is for." He didn't write back, but he stopped pushing. Even fear has a budget. Later that week, we met with a volunteer attorney who handled reputation cleanup cases. She worked from a small desk in a shared office near the courthouse. Vivian sat across from her like someone expecting the ground to fall out. The attorney scanned the file, nodded. "This is fixable. We can get the updated statement to follow her professionally. Might take a few weeks." "Will it follow me everywhere?" Vivian asked. "That's the idea," the woman said. "People read databases more than faces." On the way home, Vivian stared out the window. She didn't speak until we were nearly back. "Are you angry?" "Not at you," I said. "I'm angry at how easy it is to ruin a person who doesn't have a lobby." She nodded once. "I've been the floor," she said. "Sometimes I was the mop." At the house, Luna was already in her pajamas, dancing around the kitchen table with a sheet of foil on her head like it was a crown. She ran up and stuffed the framed "Mommy's Eyes" drawing into Vivian's tote before anyone could stop her. "So you don't forget," she said. Her voice was matter-of-fact, like a nurse giving instructions. Vivian laughed, A real, full laugh. The kind that landed and stayed. It changed the whole room. The air bent differently after that, and for once it didn't feel like we were waiting for the next shoe to drop. After that night in the kitchen, I got online and ordered what we needed. Nothing fancy, but solid. Cardioid mic, desktop interface, studio boom, and a stack of acoustic panels. I spent Saturday padding the den like I was building a bunker, measuring the corners, pressing foam against drywall, testing angles with a flashlight to see if the glue held. I'm not a gear guy. I don't fall in love with buttons or cables. But there's a difference between a setup that just records and one that means something. This meant something. The first letter we tracked was from a shelter on Queens Boulevard. A woman describing her third winter in the system, her second job with no benefits, her son's asthma meds costing more than her rent. Vivian read it like she'd lived beside that woman for years. Her voice filled the space. Never too much, never flat, just present. Rick stopped in while checking the audio chain. He leaned on the doorway, arms crossed, no expression. Then he muttered, "That sounds like money," and left before I could ask what he meant. Later that night, I told Vivian everything. How the missing child report sat in a drawer for over 20 years, how my wife's mother never got closure, just photos and theories, how the pendant half lived in my safe, not because I believed in fairy tales, but because I didn't know what it would open if I ever looked too close. Vivian didn't interrupt. She just reached up, slid her own pendant over her head, and held it out to me. It was smoother, like someone had worn it longer. I grabbed mine from the safe and set them next to each other on the table, edges curved like puzzle pieces but worn uneven, not quite flush. We didn't try to fit them together. Didn't need to. The shape was enough. "I don't want to jump," I said. "Not without everyone clear." "Then we move slow," she said. "No one gets blindsided." I nodded. We met Marjorie in the church office that week. The place smelled like lemon oil and old paper. She was already seated when we arrived, notebook in her lap, pendant case in front of her. She looked at Vivian a long time before speaking. "Hope was 5 when she disappeared," Marjorie said. "Summer of 2000, right after the block fair. She didn't come back from the playground. The cops gave us nothing, just a bag of excuses." She slid the notebook forward. Each page held block-lettered details, dates, sightings, what they'd tried. She wasn't crying, just documenting. Vivian sat still, eyes lowered. "I don't remember any of that," she said. "I remember a bus, a woman with hard perfume. After that, it's patches." We didn't tell Luna the full story. Just said we were meeting someone who remembered her mother as a little girl. Luna nodded like that made perfect sense. While we were dealing with all that, the B-plot heat started ticking up. Some mid-tier finance blog ran a piece claiming I was laundering reputations with charitable donations. They used words like pattern and impropriety and threw in enough buzz terms to sound official. We didn't respond, just kept working. The audit came, passed clean, no red flags, no backpedaling. Boring one. Luna stayed on her production grind. She'd get the booth ready before every read, levels set, pop filter checked, blank slate. The one day she skipped it, we lost the first sentence of a perfect take. Vivian looked at me confused, and Luna just smacked her forehead and groaned. "See?" she said. "Starting right matters." Vivian laughed. I smiled. We retook the read. It worked. One night over tea, I asked Vivian what name she wanted on the project. She looked down at the old napkin I'd once slid under her mug, the one that read, "You're not invisible." She tapped it twice. "That's the name," she said. "You're not invisible. It's not about me. It's a handout." In the kitchen, we moved like a family without saying the word. Dishes clinked, mismatched plates piled beside the sink. Flour dust lived on every countertop, no matter how often we wiped it. The blue mug I kept gluing finally cracked again, right at the handle. I held it for a second, debated reaching for the superglue. Then I dropped it in the bin. "We'll live without it," I said. Vivian nodded. It was already tired. At night, I still checked the locks. Twice, sometimes 3 times. That doesn't go away overnight. Control dies slow. I told her, plain and simple, I'm not trying to replace anyone. She looked up from her tea. I'm not trying to be someone's memory either. We left it there. No drama. Just a live sentence we could come back to. Luna kept calling the booth the story cave. She'd poke her head in every evening, announce herself as the producer, and then demand silence from both of us like a tiny tyrant with a clipboard. She repeated her own rule like gospel. Home is people with the same eyes and voice. I stopped correcting her. We booked a private DNA test. No announcement, no social media. Just a quiet form, a cheek swab, a courier envelope, and a promise to tell the truth no matter what. I told Marjorie and my mother-in-law exactly what we were doing. Promised them I'd carry whatever came next, no matter the result. I meant every word. The station was already humming when we walked in. Fluorescent lights overhead, mugs half full on every surface, and that steady low ring of phone lines being picked up by volunteers in branded fleece. It was just after 10:40, and the air outside had that bitter glassy chill only New York can pull off in March. But inside, the studio felt warm, real, not just heated. Vivian had the 11:20 slot. She sat near the mic early, hands calm, posture set. No script fidgeting, no throat clearing, just ready. She'd worn her usual, not polished, not styled, just solid. Luna sat next to the board in her pink headphones, glitter star sticker on one side, braided ponytail done too tight. She sat on her hands this time, serious as a surgeon. The engineer leaned over to me and grinned. Keep her. Vivian opened soft. No preamble, just this. You don't know me. You don't need to. But you know the people in these letters. Then she read. First came a letter from a janitor who cleaned overnight shifts at a hospital and bought diapers for the new moms out of his own paycheck. Then a burned-out social worker who still made PB&Js every Sunday for the shelter line. Then a teenager who taught herself English by reading National Weather Service alerts to her grandmother. Vivian's voice stayed steady. Low, clear, not selling anything. Just delivering. No edge, no apology, just presence. And the room started to shift. You could feel it. Donations trickled in first, then picked up. Callers started naming names. For Ms. Alvarez, who kept the Wednesday clinic open. For Mark, who fixed the pantry door even after his shift. The lines stayed hot. That kind of generosity warms a cold room. You can feel it. Halfway through, the station ran a short bulletin during a music break. It was clean. This week, Harbor Hands corrected an error in a prior case file. They named admin faults and thanked the staff member who raised the concern. The matter is closed. No parade, no speech, just resolution. That was enough. I took the second insert slot, just 15 seconds on air, no theatrics. I'm matching tonight's hour up to $85,000. I vouch for this voice, this work, and this project. I'm proud of what it is. That was it. Colin didn't text. I assumed he finally threw his phone into a wall somewhere. On break, the station director pulled Vivian aside and handed her a small card with a name written in Sharpie. She books voice work, he said. Long form, commercial, podcast, all of it. You've got control in your tone. That's rare. Vivian nodded once. Not a tear in sight. That's discipline. Right before we left, Luna handed me her drawing. The same one from the fridge, now smudged from tape and time. But under the stick figures and Mommy's eyes, she'd added one new line in purple crayon. Our Eyes Project. I smiled and didn't correct her. Names stick when they're said out loud enough. We stayed after the show to help pack out cables. The station ran a filler clip to cover a missed ad insert, an outtake of me scolding Luna for poking the faders while she sang something about Mike snacks. The phones lit up again. Listeners liked the human part more than the polish. Back at the house, the lights were off, but the heat still held. I took the framed drawing and set it on the shelf next to the booth. Vivian walked over, traced the glass with one finger, then turned to me. "I'd like to stay," she said. "I'd like you to stay," I answered. "As you, not as a ghost of anyone else." She nodded, quiet. No ceremony, no chase scene. Just a real line said plainly. We didn't kiss. We made a plan. "We'll talk to my mother-in-law next week," I said. "Table, chairs, no surprises." "Thank you for that," she said, "for making it something we do together." The next morning, with the house still quiet, I opened the safe, set both halves of the pendant side by side. They didn't click exactly, edges dulled from wear, but they matched. I took a photo, just one. Then I put them back. Some things, you don't rush. The envelope came on a gray Tuesday, thin, cream-colored, no fanfare. I brought it in with the mail and set it on the kitchen table, right beside the chipped blue mug Luna refused to give up. Vivian sat across from me. Luna was on her stool, swinging her legs like it was just another school morning. We didn't stage anything. No speeches, no big moment. I slid the envelope open with a steak knife, pulled the page free, and placed it flat between us. We all leaned in. It said what we already knew. Vivian Hollis is Hope Pembroke. Full sibling match. Markers aligned. No ambiguities. My mother-in-law reached out slowly, like her hands didn't know how to move yet. She touched her own mouth, then covered Vivian's hand with hers. No crying. Just wait. Just proof. Nobody spoke. Nobody had to. We cleared the table and spread everything out. Marjorie's letter, the missing child report, the photo from the church fair, the pendant halves. They didn't click together like movie props. They just fit. Edges dulled, but lined up the way memory sometimes does when it's ready. Luna stared at the DNA report, then turned to Vivian. "So you're Aunt Hope, Mommy," she said, voice clear like she'd just solved a riddle. Vivian looked startled for half a second, then smiled. "I guess I am," she said. We laughed. Then we cried. Not hard, not performative. Just enough. Vivian stood and wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater. "I won't take anyone's place," she said. My mother-in-law, still holding the photo, didn't even pause. "You found your own." And that was it. No script, no ceremony. Just a room making space for something that had always been missing. I took them both down the hall. The door had stayed closed for weeks. I opened it. Inside, the booth was ready now. Panels hung clean. Mic set. Interface blinking blue. No clutter, no wires underfoot. I'd mounted a small brushed plate on the wall. It read, "You're not invisible." Vivian stepped in like she already belonged there. That afternoon, we recorded a pilot. Not a demo, an actual start. Hope Pembroke reading letters from shelters, from health workers, from small towns no one hears about until something breaks. Luna armed the track a beat early. My chair scraped. I cleared my throat. You could hear her snort in the background and whisper, "Dad, that's staying in." We didn't cut it. It's how we sound. After dinner, Luna bumped the edge of the table and knocked over the blue mug. It hit the tile and broke clean in two. I bent down, ready to reach for the glue again, then stopped. "We're done fixing it," I said. Vivian swept the pieces into her hand, laughing. It had a good run. We poured tea into mismatched cups and sat like it was always meant to be that way. Later, Vivian asked about names. She looked serious, not nervous. "Professionally, I'll work under Hope Pembroke," she said. "It keeps the records clean, and if people search, they'll find the right person. But with you and Luna..." She hesitated just a second, then finished. "I want Pembroke Shaw in the mailbox, if that's all right." I said yes without blinking. "No paperwork yet," I added. "We're not proving anything. We're choosing it." She nodded. "That's exactly what I need." Before bed, I framed Luna's drawing properly. Real glass, matte black border, and hung it by the booth door. She stood next to me with her arms folded, surveying the spot like a curator. Then she patted the frame and said, Mommy's eyes found home. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. For the first time in a long stretch, I wasn't holding the weight of everything alone. We all held a piece, and it held us back. Do you need your own Dorian? The kind of man who'd walk into your life, tear through your chaos, and help you find yourself? If this story hit you, leave a comment. Tell us what you felt, or just write "great story." It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't yet, hit like and subscribe. It's just one click for you, but it means the world to us. Love you guys.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.